Ravens Nation, good afternoon. It is 12:04 Eastern on 9/11, September 11th, 2024. It is a Wednesday, and of course, you can't say that date without at least just acknowledging that 23 years ago today, our country forever changed. There's a lot of celebrations going on today, and when I say celebrations, honoring the lives of those lost on 9/11, 2001. And Sarah, as a native New Yorker, not New York City, but upstate New York, this one means a little bit something different to us. And so I just wanted to get that started that way. And you have your red on in honor of America, whether you planned it or not. So glad you guys can be with us. Welcome inside the vault for this Ravens Lunch Hour live stream. It is presented to you by one of this month's small business Patreon title sponsors, S&R Laundry Services. They are a laundry and dry cleaning pickup and delivery service located in Baltimore and surrounding areas. You can visit cleanmylaundry.com to learn more. And if you use code BOBBYT20, that's BOBBYT20, you'll get 20% off your next service. So good to see you, partner. Last one for the week until Sunday, game day. You'll be solo on Thursday and Friday of this week. But lots to discuss, including what you guys see in the headline if you're on YouTube, and that is this hefty workload that we've seen through, yes, just one short week of this season for Lamar is great and fun to watch and highly entertaining, but we all know that's just not sustainable over the course of a 17-game, 18-week season. And I thought some new analysis that we have, along with some of our own opinions, will shed some light on that.
Yeah, to look good at that. We want to look at Kyle Van Noy, who just torched the Chiefs and their training staff based on how they attended to him when he fractured his orbital bone. I think they got a pretty bad grade. I know the Ravens got a bad grade back in the day. I think they got one too. And Kyle's like, yeah, I agree with that. And then, later we want to look at Joe Burrow. And is he healthy? There's some video going around with his hand/wrist that we want to look at and see what might be happening in Cincinnati.
There's enough to go around for days on days on days on end in terms of content just in this division. If you think about the quarterback battle, or at least the quarterback controversy, being that Fields is getting prepared to start week 2 for Pittsburgh. We know what's going on with Cleveland, not only their struggles, but now Deshaun's been sued again. You got Burrow's health and a really disappointing performance in week 1. And then, of course, I guess the Ravens are the least polarizing of the 4, but there's plenty to be talked about as a result. And there has been since their Thursday night loss last week, including our friend and Ravens content creator on the X or Twitter platform, Ramey, Hoodie Ramey. You can follow him. And he kind of highlights what we wanted to discuss here a little bit. He has a screenshot of the box score in terms of what Lamar did statistically, both through the air and on the ground Thursday against Kansas City. We all know that he had 26 completions, 41 attempts through the air, 273 passing yards, and a touchdown. And then on the ground, 16 carries, a game high, 122 yards. He averaged 7.6 and was electric. But as Ramey notes, he says, hey, lighten the workload, please and thank you. So let's have a conversation about it, shall we?
Yeah, so we've talked about this a little bit this week, his workload, and how it may have contributed to him going from great quarterback mechanics in the beginning of the game and not so great, that may have impacted his accuracy down the stretch. And so we kind of want to look at ways to lighten the workload. There are many ways. Now, yesterday we had a little bit of a conversation based off of Femi Aymadejo's tweet, where I was explaining to him how frustrated fans were because they felt like, with his comment saying that Derrick Henry wasn't brought here to get 30 carries per game, and coming off of last year's AFC Championship game where they clearly forgot about the running backs, and then here we are with Derrick Henry, and then he only gets 13 carries. And so Femi is saying, no, that's Lamar saying, I got this based off of the decisions he made with his RPOs and at the line of scrimmage. And so I think that, there's some to dive into. I think 100%, we discussed this yesterday, Derrick Henry can be featured more. Want to see him out there. We certainly don't want things to be predictable, which seemed to be happening. It was like Justice Hill's out there for passes, and Derrick Henry's out there for runs, which allows defenses to tee off. So, but what I want to dig into today, because we definitely need to see more of Derrick Henry, and we definitely need the right side of the offensive line to pick things up. 100%. Those two things we've looked into. Today, based off of a video that Kurt Warner put out, and then some stuff that we didn't look into in depth with JT O'Sullivan, I think we can look at Lamar himself and what Femi's getting to, and look at, is there ways that he can lighten his own workload based off of the decisions he's making at the line of scrimmage.
Cool. Yeah, and let's begin with Kurt, because on the Rich Eisen show, I think it was the day after the game, maybe, he kind of cited a few things that he felt like could have been cleaned up, could have been a little bit more polished, maybe a little bit more decisive from Lamar Jackson. And the word that he used that you're about to hear in this clip is a certain level of impatience. Now, remember, Kurt was high above the stadium at Arrowhead. He had a good view, and he watched the tape back as well because he called the game for Westwood One. We had him on the show the day prior, and you all remember that in terms of what he had to say. Here he is the day after the game, examining and analyzing Lamar's play.
I was watching the game last night. I didn't necessarily see the things that were playing out behind him, but I saw the impatience of Lamar. I've actually gone back and watched the first half of the game, and there were a few opportunities that I think were coming open or possibly could have been there had he been patient. But it was more the feel that I felt like he was dropping back and looking to run as opposed to really, letting those things play out in front of him. And so there was just an impatience there that I felt watching the game. It showed up again when I watched the first half of the tape. And that, again, there just has to be a balance between the two. Right? He runs for over 100 yards, so you know how dynamic he is. It's just hard to live and win games against good teams in that mode when there are things that are happening. There was one at the end of the first half where they have an opportunity for a touchdown to Likely on a little stop route. And as soon as Lamar got back, he went running up in the pocket and ended up throwing the ball away in that situation where could have been a touchdown in that situation, could have been a difference maker. So just something I want to see play out as the narrative. We had the narrative last year of what they needed to become offensively and what Lamar needed to be. The changes this year, and and just seeing kind of the opposite of the way he played. I'm just interested to see how this settles in and this offense looks down the stretch.
So that from the Hall of Famer last week on the Rich Eisen show. And as you just heard, quote, I saw the impatience of Lamar. I felt like he was dropping back and looking to run as opposed to really letting those things play out in front of him. There just has to be a balance between the two. And of course, citing what he saw being Lamar's impatience. We all know that Lamar had a tremendous game. He accounted for over 400 yards from scrimmage, both through the air and on the ground. But as we kind of noted within the last week or so, after we watched it back and after we watched an analyst like JT O'Sullivan, there were some moments where, Sarah, maybe whether it was related to the lack of pass pro or whether it was related to just how maybe exhausted he was or the lack of workload for Derrick Henry, there were times where he just like, you know what, I'm not even going to go through more than one progression here. If it's not there, I'm tucking it and running. And some of the film actually backed that up.
Well, yeah, and that's what we don't get to see during the game. First of all, this could be, this could be said, well, he's damned if he does and damned if he doesn't, because he was criticized for not running enough, right, in the AFC Championship game. And now it's like, well, now he's running too much. And it's like, can he win? And I think the answer is yes. It's just continuing to hone it in. And so to me, the answer of when to run and not is, did you get through your reads? And so I think that's what Kirk Cousins is pinpointing. It can make, you can come
Warner,
Kurt Warner. You could feel like it's a damned if you do and damned if you don't, but I don't think that's what he's saying. I think they're saying get through the reads. Whereas I felt like a lot of times last year he'd get through the reads and then he would still stand back and they would play street ball. And that worked a lot during the year, but it didn't work against the Chiefs. And so it seemed like the pendulum swung where he didn't, and some of the plays didn't get all through all the reads. Now, I went back and I grabbed some plays from JT O'Sullivan that we have not covered yet because we did not cover this topic. These plays are specifically plays where the offensive line is not breaking down. Okay, because there for sure are a handful of plays where the offensive line is breaking down and he had to go. He had to go. But these plays right here, and JT breaks down these plays almost like 3 or 4 minutes each. I took about 4 plays where he just kind of explains it quickly and then I move on. So I mashed them all together. But here we go.
Felt like in this game, there were some times where it was 1 and run, 1 and I'm getting out of there, 1 and I don't trust my guys. Next one here, another scramble from Lamar Jackson. Another example of what I would consider a 1 and run type situation. Now, it's not the end of the world. Okay, I want to continue to like build the evidence here of what it's going to take, in my opinion, for the Ravens to win against the Chiefs. And yes, he's going to have to run. And yes, this is there. 1, he takes off, right? You can see the lane. He's looking to the left. He doesn't like it. Take off. Now, what I'm saying is instead of doing that, let's get through a read. So left, no, right, back to the 7 stop. Boom. And again, he's already running. There is really no read here. This is 1 and run. Another missed opportunity, I thought. Middle of the field, Andrews, the number 2 up top. You catch that match on the mic, and I don't care even if that guy is, the best middle linebacker in the league. We got to throw that. Now, it ends up being a nice heads-up football IQ play here from Lamar Jackson, but I think you have to throw it to Andrews right down the middle of the field. Next one here, 3rd and 6. This is a tough one for me. It looks like we're trying to work likely down here to the bottom on a little choice or option. Really kind of a Kelsey special versus the Chiefs. Likely doesn't win, but Lamar also doesn't get through a read. So again, we've already talked about the 1 and run type vibe going on here. To me, this is 1 and run, when if we were to get through a read, it's there. The pass pro is there. The route backside in is there.
So, Bobby, I think the one on the Mark Andrews, one could argue that the pocket was collapsing, but before it did, that it was there. It was open. Mark Andrews was there. So I think those were you could argue the Mark Andrews one, that the pocket was collapsing, but he was open before it did. So you could argue that. But there's about 4 plays there where it was 1 read and run. And I think, and listen, this is like, defenders are flying. You've been sack stripped already. Like, of course, that's going to weigh on a quarterback. And so this isn't, I hope that I don't need to keep repeating. Like, the Ravens aren't even in that game with Lamar Jackson. They're not even in that game. We are talking, and by the way, we haven't even discussed like the defense and the blown coverages and like the timeouts and all that. We've done all that. This is Wednesday. This is like film reading. This is getting, nitpicky for sure. And so, but this is just what we're trying to like hone in on, because there could be you said he needed to run more, and then he ran, and then it was too much. And so just wanted to point out that I went back to the game book, Bobby, and let's bring back up his numbers with Ramey. Let's see how many rushes he had. 16. Here we go. Okay, so he had 16 carries, right, for 122 yards. I went back to the game book. Now, again, some of these might be because the offensive line is crashing him. Others, like we just showed, it's not because of that. It's because of 1 read. Of those 16 carries, 9 were scrambles. Okay, that's 56% of his runs, more than half, were scrambles. Okay, that is not a, hey, Todd Monken, hey, John Harbaugh, you're like asking too much of Lamar. That is scrambles. Some of them 1 read and run. Okay, not all of them. Then for those 9 scrambles, it went for 82 yards. That's 82 yards of 122. That's 69% of his rushing yards, almost 70%, Bobby. So about 3/4 of his rushing yards were from scrambles.
Yep.
Okay. So
not designed.
Listen, if you're mad at Coach that he said that that Henry isn't going to be, a 30 carry back, or if you're mad that Henry wasn't featured more, I get that, and I don't like the predictability that it led to on Monday. That to me is all fair. But when we're talking about workload, 69% of his rushing was off of scrambles. So again, some of it's because of the offensive line, some of it's the 1 read and run. but these are places you can look for to lighten his load.
And by the way, if you're mad at a guy like Kurt Warner, who I've seen some are between my mentions on X or even in the live chat right now, consider this, what he just ironically tweeted out less than 20 minutes ago. He says, people miss the point of why I love analyzing. Yes, I enjoy helping fans to better understand the game, but my primary goal is to share thoughts for players and coaches to use to challenge where they are or what they do and maybe use them to become great. Very few ever reach out to talk ball, so it's my way of sharing in hopes it gets back to them because I want them all to be great and constantly challenge why they do what they want. That will always be my primary purpose, and my phone is always open for them to talk personally. But knowing that seldom happens, that is my objective because I love this game and the people in it. How ironic is that? That just comes out as we're playing because, like you said off the top, it'd be easy to point the finger at Kurt like some of you have and said, oh man, Kurt, Lamar's damned if he does, damned if he doesn't in your mind because of what he had to say after the AFC title game and because of what he's had to say in the last couple of days. But again, he's doing what we're doing right now. We're just nitpicking what's already great.
Yeah.
That's all we're doing. That's really all it is.
Because there's one other quarterback that has been more great in terms of Super Bowl wins. One other thing I want to look at, I just put it out, about 70%, almost 3/4 of his rushing yards came from scrambles. Now, I said this yesterday when we talked about Derrick Henry getting more than 13 carries. Again, I am here for featuring Derrick Henry more. I am not saying that. But I want to put in here also to the idea that Femi Ayomadejo said some of it is Lamar saying, I got this. Or as I said yesterday, it's just Lamar and Henry reading the defensive ends. So I want to bring back in JT O'Sullivan.
Yep.
And just 2 plays. One where it's just let's read the defensive end together. And then we will decide if Lamar gets it or if Derrick Henry gets it. And that plays into decision-making of how much workload he has. Now, I'm not saying these are the wrong decisions. I'm just saying with Lamar and Derrick, you want the threat to the defensive line. Who do I got to take, Lamar or Derrick? And so based off of reading, then that adds into his workload. So here we go.
Lamar Jackson uses his legs. This, to me, designed quarterback run or potential quarterback run.
Oops.
Zone read, escort.
Perfect, right? He reads that. They read that perfectly. The defensive line bites on Derrick Henry as the way it's drawn up. That's why we have the 2 of them back there. Okay.
To me, designed
Lamar
quarterback
takes
run
it,
or potential quarterback run with,
and he nearly gets a touchdown. There's one later in the 4th quarter I brought out here.
the zone read escort or zone read lead.
Here, I'll just mute it. Or do you want JT?
No, he's just repeating this one. So, I mean, they read it perfectly. Okay. And bring back JT on this one here. Here we go.
Yes.
Now, this one, JT thinks it could have gone to Henry, but Lamar gets yards out of it.
In the right, so you got player 56. He surfs it. I think you could technically give it to Henry here for a nice run. Regardless, we pull it.
Because Henry's only got, is that the linebacker right there? And it looks like Linderbaum gets him. That's okay. Lamar pulls it. He thinks he's got it. He's got a blocker and likely.
We get a nice block from 80. You just got to keep playing there. Keep playing, keep playing, keep playing.
Everybody.
Yeah. So I guess my point is I'm with everybody on the workload. It felt like a lot. And but A, I'm okay with it against the Chiefs. And B, it's become everybody, all coaches are just screwing Lamar over, yada, yada, yada. And I just am not buying that. I'm just not buying it. Yes, I do think Henry can be out there more. We need more of that right there, what we just saw. That the defensive line has to decide between Lamar and Henry. I want to see a lot more of that. He can be out there. But this isn't they're forcing Lamar to do this. This is exactly what Femi said. They're at the line of the scrimmage. They're making decisions on the fly. Lamar is empowered based off of the game situation of what to do. And I think that other than a couple of those 1-and-runs that we highlighted, Lamar did a good job. And he tried to put the game on his back, and they were a toe away. And I just don't think, I'm not ready to overreact yet and say, okay, the Ravens, I'm here to see what can still develop between Lamar and Henry and what Lamar will do the rest of the season and in terms of scrambling and reading and the offensive line. I want to give it a minute with 3 new starters on the offensive line. I want to see how it can all come about before I panic.
That 69% number that you mentioned of scrambles, that pretty much flattens any argument that's out there about those who are pointing the finger at the coaching staff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, come on. From that specific game, you can have the conversation about whatever
AFC
past seasons
AFC Championship game, I still put number one to blame are the coaches in the game plan.
for sure.
This game, I'm not doing that.
Yeah. All right. Well, speaking of blame, that's exactly what Kyle Van Noy, Ravens linebacker, in a way, placed onto the Kansas City Chiefs training staff in terms of not why he was injured and he fractured an orbital bone on Thursday night against the Chiefs, but why he wasn't tended to quicker. Now, specifically, some of you have been asking, how the heck do you injure your eye when you're wearing a helmet? Well, his new podcast with Gerald McCoy, courtesy of Yahoo Sports, KVN broke that down, how it actually happened.
I got injured in this game. I believe it was the sixth play of the third quarter. I suffered an eye injury on the play. My face is flat after hitting Mahomes, and then Justin Madubuike hit Mahomes at the same time. My head was flat. Mahomes' body landed on top of my helmet. My helmet slipped under my chin strap, and then Justin happened to lay his whole body weight on top of me, having the top of my pad helmet in my eye, smashing the ground. The ground is undefeated, and I ended up suffering that fractured orbital bone in my eye. It's a pretty good fracture, and still going through tests with specialists. And
for the audio-only audience, we couldn't actually see the damage in that clip because he's rocking a black pair of shades. But Sarah,
large pair,
a very large pair,
large pair.
And now you can see why he was in such pain. Really writhing on the floor. What's the word? Writhing? What is it? What am I looking for? Writhing, right? Writhing, right? Writhing in pain. Anyway, the cameras caught him looking absolute face down as he just described, in a whole lot of pain. And so now the question becomes, well, what the heck happened in his experience afterwards? And Kyle, live chat's helping me out here. No, it's not riveting.
Not riveting. That's different.
Riving?
Riving, maybe? Writhing?
Oh, I was right. Okay, writhing.
Writhing. But it's W-R-I-T. Okay, I got you.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Having a complete brain fart over here. Writhing. Writhing. He was writhing in pain. That's what I wanted.
Okay.
So, Kyle, this has been circulating. Last night I was grilling and I just started watching the podcast, and then I heard Kyle talk about his experience after the injury.
Disappointed in the way the training staff of the Chiefs handled the situation. When things like that hurt, you get hurt, especially something that could be serious like mine was. You're supposed to rely on the team's training staff or, their doctors. And I was supposed to see a ophthalmologist, which is somebody who checks out eye, performs,
Right.
eye surgery. And they took an entire quarter to get down to talk to me in the locker room, which to me is unacceptable. Because then you start thinking, what if I was trying to go back in the game? What if I was, really, really hurt? I know mine happened to be moderate, but it still was serious because it's an eye. And, your expectation of someone to be down there as the training staff asked him to be down there would have had a little bit more urgency. And just the way it took time was super unprofessional to me. Especially there's people that were in there too. One of the doctors or the friend of the doctor was in there, double cup fisted, styrofoam cups, like everything was good. And I just felt like that was unprofessional. I understand how Kansas City, the players, have given that training room an F because with my experience, I would have probably after that gave them an F too. Yeah, they ended up figuring, a little bit, but it was just the unprofessional. Sorry, I'm losing my words of thought. because this is serious to me. The
It is serious.
unprofessional.
And you talking about you giving them one letter. I got 2 letters for them, but whatever.
Yeah.
You know,
To me, I just feel like
sure.
as a player, people have that expectation of you being professional, handling business.
That's crazy,
and
man.
In a time of need, I wanted that from them, and I felt like I didn't get it. Because then you get into like, did they take their time because, you know, I'm a Ravens player, blah, you know, blah, 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 blah. Those are just the thoughts that go into it. I don't think it was that, but, you know, at the same time, I don't want them to come out and apologize. It is what it is. Like, you know, it's all good. I don't need them to come out with a press release and say they apologize. We take care of our players, blah, blah, blah. But I experienced it. I know the training room that I was in knows, like, we know the truth. And it was just disappointing because I wanted that to be handled because I feel like I deserved care in that.
All right. So I know he rambled a little bit there. Again, that's courtesy of Yahoo Sports, his new podcast with Gerald McCoy. And by the way, I see the mispronunciation comments. Writhing. Thank you all. Writhing in pain was Kyle Van Noy when he went down with that fractured orbital bone. But Sarah, part of what you just heard, quote, they took an entire quarter to get down to talk to me in the locker room, which to me is unacceptable. As a player, people have that expectation of you being professional, handling business, and in a time of need, I wanted that from them and felt like I didn't get it. Also referred to the training staff as unprofessional. So before we kind of give our reactions, just the context here, whether it's related or not, the NFLPA-led survey, we all remember this, for March of 2023. I believe that was the inaugural edition of this player-led survey that ranks the organization, that grades the organization in different areas. And you see where the Chiefs came in here, Sarah. Not good in those categories. They have a F for the locker room, a D for the training room. Training staff is an F. That ranked 32nd, dead last in the league. And I guess that's the one that's most relevant here, being that Kyle is sharing this experience, particularly about the training staff itself. And so, again, just context that's out there, hard to truly measure what happened without fully knowing. But this is something that dominated a lot of headlines, and the fact that back-to-back Super Bowl champions have this kind of grades outside of the head coach who got an A+, pretty wild.
Andy and Pat are carrying that team for sure. No, that's crazy. First of all, the way he described the injury, like to just be stuck at the bottom of that pile and have something. Do you know what I mean? Like if you get punched and it's like happens in a split second and it's like, oh, like I got hit hard, but like you can feel it bearing down and like. He cracked me up. He said the ground is undefeated. Like I thought that was a hilarious quote. But yeah, he's talking about styrofoam cups. It takes, how long did he say it took? A full quarter?
A quarter, full quarter.
What does that come out to in real time?
Yeah, I mean, 15 NFL minutes is probably
30 at least.
You would think.
Timeouts, like unless you're like draining the clock, right? Which was not happening. With Derrick Henry anyway. But yeah, it just seems odd that it would take that long. And when you're in pain, Bobby, you just want it to get attended to as soon as possible. And we all saw how he was in pain, writhing in pain. Is that what we decided? Is that it? Writhing in pain. So I feel for him. And then I thought it was hilarious that he's like, I don't want any of your statements. I don't want any of your apologies. Like, just get it fixed, Chiefs. You know, he's like, he's preemptively saying, I don't want to see that press release because you guys already had the F. And so far, at least for our team, the visiting team, that has not been rectified.
Yeah, it's gaining some ground. I wouldn't be surprised if that statement comes out regardless of
it's
what
coming
Kyle
out.
has requested, because like I said, this has been a topic, particularly in Kansas City. And here is sort of part of the recap from the NFLPA after that survey. It reads, I should say, the players' issue with quality of care is mostly centered around the training room, The players feel that the training room is significantly understaffed, with only 43% of the team responding that they get an adequate amount of one-on-one treatment time. Players feel that the staff is unwilling to provide the necessary treatment to support recovery and performance. For example, players are not allowed to get preventative treatment, soft tissue work, and other care for soreness and day-to-day issues, and that is a regular in terms of offering across the NFL. So, again, just speaking to the understaffed state of apparently the way this, with which the Chiefs training staff operates, could be a direct correlation there in terms of taking a whole quarter to get down to KVN. So,
well, that's different from like what the Ravens got, bad grades on. Like this one is just like, that one was, we don't like this guy. Get us a new guy. That was for the Ravens. This one is, can you get us enough guys? You know what I mean? So that's not necessarily like they didn't care about you. If that's the case, like that you're just understaffed. It's not like we didn't care about you. It's not that. It's just that we're understaffed. And so that's on ownership for the Chiefs to get that rectified.
I know you guys remember this. I had to pull it just because and you just cited it. But here was that March 2023, following the 22-23 season, the NFLPA led report card for the Ravens. A F- for strength coaches. That was 32nd, dead last league-wide. C+ for a weight room. That was 22nd, tied for 22nd. And then, not quite middle of the pack, but certainly below average in terms of the training room and training staff, although B+ in terms of letter grade, even though it is bottom half of the league, tied for 22nd. It's not egregious, right? I think that's what you're getting at. It's not egregious like it was for Kansas City. So I think the nice part about what's life been like for the Ravens since this specific report card, this sort of black eye came out, was one, they obviously cleaned house and got Steve Saunders out of there. And they promoted from within. Scott Elliott now leads that group. And from what I've heard, based on some conversations that I've had, it's more individualized, more specialized training regimens that reflect and honor your injury history, your goals, your positional needs, and things of that nature. So perhaps a more new school approach than a little bit of the old school way with Steve Saunders. And luckily, although it's really hard to measure, the Ravens have been they've fared well in the injury category since then.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what their rankings will be. That came out in March. Do those usually come out in March?
Well, sorry, that was the F- a couple years ago when
right,
Rashad
but it came out in March.
You and March,
like the month of March, right? And so I'm assuming that they would keep doing it in that month.
Oh yeah.
So I know that they improved. But yeah, I want to see it even more. You want to talk Joe Burrow?
Definitely, because this is one of those ones that you got to monitor, especially given how his season came to an end last year. So what you got on Burrow?
So we talked about how you can't panic if you're the Cincinnati Bengals because the Bengals always start slow. In fact, what was the stat I have here? They showed it on Get Up on ESPN this morning that since 2019, 42 teams started with an 0-2 record. And only 2 of those 42 ended up going to the playoffs. Now, the 2022 Bengals are one of them. Okay, they like broke that trend. So knowing that it's 2 out of 41 teams made it to the playoffs that started the 0-2. So knowing that stat and the odds are against you to make it to the playoffs if you start 0-2, that puts pressure on a lot of teams that started out 0-1, including the Ravens, right? They need the win against the Raiders. But it also puts the pressure on these Bengals. And so on Get Up this morning, they had a segment of asking patience or panic for all these different teams. So for example, they were like preaching patience about the Jets. Like, it was Aaron Rodgers' first game in 610 days. It's really his first year with the Jets. They're trying to figure things out. Definitely patience here. But with Burrow, It was different, not because of the loss, but because of what cameras caught on his hand.
Or patience. Joe Burrow and the Bengals, a shocking home loss to the Patriots. They play Kansas City this week. Hawk, panic or patience?
As much as this pains me for Bengals Nation, Who Dey Nation, I am going with panic because I don't like this video that you're looking at right now. Now look, Joe Burrow typically does start slow for the season. The Bengals have started slow under Joe Burrow's watch. But when you're looking at this video, it's clearly that his throwing hand is bothering him. And as it said online, either that is the heaviest Gatorade bottle on planet Earth, or there is something wrong with his hand. There's something wrong that's not looking good for Cincinnati.
Remember that he had the surgery on it during last year when he hurt it, and so he is still in the recovery phase. There have been some questions about just how healthy he was. I always say this. If you're injured, ask a doctor for help. If you can't find a doctor, ask a football player, because you guys know this stuff better than anybody. That video does not look good.
Oh, it's a damning video. They got on panic colors because they need to panic. Top to bottom, alert orange. Because if your quarterback's doing that,
that's right.
Both your best receivers seem frustrated with the organization, and your defense still can't stop the run. Things are not setting up well for this season going forward for them. I know they always start slow. Maybe they'll bounce back. Maybe you just got to knock some rust off that wrist. I don't know. I'm optimistic because we all like Joe Burrow.
Love him.
But it's not exciting what you're looking at right now.
It's not about.
Yeah. So, we don't want to go too far. We're not doctors, but I liked how Grinny said, he's like, ask a doctor if you can, but if you can't, ask the players, because players have been in this. Fox for the former Raven, who was on our show during the Super Bowl week, he was cracking me up. He's like, alert orange, that is damning video. So Bobby, they got a lot going on. And they got to overcome it. They have Jamar Chase. They got that contract situation that is very public. Jamar is not afraid to talk about it. They got that going on. It doesn't look like their defense is great. And then the worst thing is just what he was doing with that wrist. Like, Bobby, that looks so familiar when he was doing that, right? When he was playing against the Ravens, and it was like his last game, I think, last year. I personally, this is truly, I hope he is okay, because I've said this. I want to see the AFC North where both Lamar and Burrow at the same time play all 17 games, so that you can finally figure out, we can finally decide once and for all who's head-to-head, who's going to have the better record. Right now, Lamar has the Bengals number, but I want them both healthy, but it's going to be something to monitor for sure.
Oh, yeah. I remember the sideline look last year on Thursday Night Football that you just were kind of alluding to when he was like, oh, let me go test this thing out. And they caught it on video, and he went to throw the football and literally stopped midway through right when his wrist was about to curl. And he looked like he was just in a ridiculous amount of pain. And so that obviously ends his season. He gets surgery on it. And now in your first game back, this is what Bengals fans apparently, at least through the eyes of my roundtable co-host, Zim, he's never wanted to, over the last couple of weeks, even entertain this conversation. Why? It is your throwing hand. It is your wrist. That is a vital component to how you quarterback. And so until he shows that's looking 100%, and until they clean things up defensively, you heard one of them. What was it? Did Dominique say that? 170 yards on the ground to a New England team.
Yeah.
They got trounced in the time of possession game. Really disappointing start. Not time to press the panic button in terms of, like, aside from Joe's injury, because we know what Cincy's all about when it comes to their slow
Fox
starts.
would disagree. He says orange alert.
Well, I'm not saying it's not for Joe. I'm saying as a team, they're slow starts. We got to see if Joe's able to bounce back.
But if you're panicking about Joe, you're panicking about the team.
Oh, yeah, because if Joe's not there, then, Jake Browning, is Jake Browning still their primary backup? I think he is.
Yeah.
He's one of your more serviceable backups. He showed that down the stretch last year, but certainly not, I don't think overly serviceable to the point where he can take him on like a Joe Flacco ride that he took Cleveland on.
Right.
I wouldn't say that.
Right.
But
no, definitely not. Before we move on from ESPN videos, I just want to do Stephen A's top 5 real quick. I'm just gonna top 5 teams. Yeah. In the NFL after week 1, right? I just want to show you where the Ravens are. and do a small reaction to it. So let me pull this in here. I had to pull it in last second. Here we go.
List after week 1, the power rankings. Keep in mind, the list is fluid. The list is fluid. Okay. We gonna go to number 5 on the list. Give it to me right now, please. Bam! The Baltimore Ravens. Why? Because they went against the reigning 2-time defending Super Bowl champions. That's why it came down to the wire. I know Lamar Jackson missed not one, but two throws in the end zone. Should have made it. Didn't happen. Connected. We're likely at the end of the day, but what happened? He couldn't get his feet down, had a big toe, Kevin Durant style. We understand that, but the Baltimore Ravens were still there. Okay, Derrick Henry didn't even run the football that effectively. They still came down to the wire. That's what you expect to see from the Baltimore Ravens. Against anybody else, they win that game. They were just going against Patrick Mahomes. They still a top 5 team. They ain't top 4 though. Give it to me right now.
All right. So the full list: 5 Ravens, 4 Lions, 3 Eagles, 2 49ers, 1 Chiefs. Bobby, I like this spot, to be honest with you. I like that the Ravens are just expected to be good, right? Expected to be good. You give them top 5, and I think he said it right. He's like, even with not having Henry running effectively or not running at all, or even with the toe and this and that, they took him to the wire. And in some ways, what Isaiah Likely said is true. That's probably going to be the worst game that they play. Now, he acted like Chiefs weren't going to get better in that clip that he gave, but he's like, this might be the worst that we play. And so I like number 5. I like kind of just being respected, but somewhat under the radar. And that list looks a lot like the list that started last year, where you got Chiefs and the 49ers up there, Eagles up there, Lions up there, and then the Ravens overtook the Lions once they went head-to-head. And so just keep it right here. That's fine. All of you like the underdog role. I prefer the Chiefs role, where I'm top dog and everybody's coming at me. But in reality, that's not where we are right now. And so it's respectable at number 5, but enough of an underdog that you can like work your way up somewhat under the radar.
If history repeats itself, this team's performed pretty darn well in big moments when they're the underdog, so maybe a good spot to be. How about some quick hits? Our guy, Coach Evans, you all know him, Sip to Tally, YouTube channel, great content when it comes to Raven analysis, film study. Coach said that something I've been thinking about too in recent days here, and that is Zach Orr's debut as defensive coordinator. He blitzed Patrick Mahomes just 3 times all game on 30 dropbacks. So a pretty big difference in terms of what Mike Macdonald's game plan was in the AFC title game, or at least Mike Macdonald's game plan and strategy that you saw often deployed throughout the last couple seasons as DC. But then again, you can have grace, or at least I'll choose to have a little bit of grace for a guy who had the headset on for the first time at the NFL level.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Mike Macdonald went through that. Although Mike Macdonald's Seattle defense was on point. But yeah, it's just interesting how they played him. Kind of counting on your 4 defensive linemen to kind of do things on their own and get pressure. It's not like I felt like, I think I said this, it's not like I thought Patrick Mahomes had this off the charts, mind-blowing game. I mean, he did play well. He's Patrick Mahomes. So in some ways, it worked, but the defense got ripped apart in the middle of the field, time and time again. So they got to figure that out. The other thing they got to figure out, remember all the timeouts. I was going to play this yesterday, but we forgot about it. I think can I fit this in today? I think we're okay to fit this in today. Sure. Harbaugh discussed the defensive packages and why he had to call a timeout. Now, some of the players are like, oh, it's just communication. And Harbs is like, it's not quite communication. It's partially that, but it's also this. I thought this was very interesting because here we are. We're nitpicking Lamar, right? Down to the nitty gritty. And I just feel like we need to put more on the defense. And I have grace for Zach Orr too. It's his first one, but the defense is going to have to pick up their end of the bargain too. Here's Harbaugh and what happened on some of those places where they needed to call timeouts.
On defense. Our issues on defense were we had a missed assignment, that hurt us. That's something that was really not so much a communication issue, just a volume issue probably as much as anything. We're looking at that really hard. First game of the season in that kind of an environment. The other issues were more just the way we played the plays. So I don't think maybe communication was used in kind of a general term. I think the substitution issues were legit, if you want to call those communications, certainly. Probably we had too many substitution groups up, to be honest. I think we were trying to play a lot of different guys and get them in there situationally against a no-huddle team. And we didn't do a great job. They were subbing guys in like at 18 seconds on the play clock and calling their play real quick. So that creates an issue where we put our group in there, and then you got to call the play before the 15-second clock goes off. I think that might have been it. Maybe that was what they were talking about. That was a communication issue, but really more it's kind of a substitution issue. We changed it. We fixed it in the third quarter when we kept our groups on the field, and we didn't have an issue after that.
Wait, I got a question and follow up there. Interpretation wise, he gave a couple different reasons as to what may have led to some miscues.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically the Marlin one, where he felt like he was handing Worthy off and there was nobody there and he was in no man's land and went for 6. He said it's volume. That was a volume thing. But did he go on to say that was a substitution thing?
Well, no.
What do you mean by volume?
I think I did not understand the volume part. That part I would also have a follow-up question. So that's something that was really not as much a communication, just a volume issue, probably as much as anything. We're looking at that really hard, the first game of the season in that kind of environment. But here's what I think he was saying about Marlin. He said our issue on defense was that we had missed an assignment that hurt us. So the volume thing I don't think was about Marlin, and I think might have been Kyle, because Kyle was the nearest safety. He was the only other guy who he could have been passing off to. So he called it a missed assignment. I think he's saying that Marlin, to me, the way I read that, and tell me if you think I'm wrong, Bobby, to me, I think he thinks that Marlin was correct in passing it off, but somebody missed their assignment to be there. That's how I read that. Yeah? No?
It's one option. A lot of people in the live chat are referencing the crowd noise, but
crowd noise for what? Volume, like, might have been volume of reps. I get that.
Oh, they're saying volume as in crowd noise.
No, I think volume is in reps.
That was my interpretation of it.
I don't know what they're saying about crowd noise. Maybe they're saying
everybody
missed assignment.
Well, everybody's thinking
there's not crowd noise when the defense is on the field on the road. That's like if you're at home. I don't think it's
I would be
noise.
surprised. Yeah, that was not my interpretation. I was thinking volume in terms of amount.
Yeah, amount of reps. Yeah.
Yeah. Now what they might be remembering though is something earlier in the week when we talked about the Justice Hill miscue. I mean, he did all that he could handle going back to back blocking Chris Jones, but that was a crowd volume issue that John mentioned earlier in the week during his Monday press conference. So
yeah. Okay, but okay, so I think he's saying somebody missed an assignment. Based off of what we saw in the film, not for sure about this, looked like it could have been Kyle Hamilton. Okay. The second thing he's saying is a substitution problem, which is he just feels like they were getting too maybe they were getting too cute with how many people they were trying to get in and out. And so he's saying they solved it. And by the way, they solved it too late, obviously, but they solved it by doing less substitutions. And he's like, we're looking at that really hard of not trying to have too many, combinations. So they're going to have to streamline that for sure.
Well, we know week 2 is already here. I know it probably feels like we've been kind of milking all the content we can from Thursday Night Football, but there's been a lot of it, and we've just been trying to make sense of it all and give it to you in the best way possible.
Well, listen, no. We always, here's how it works, just so you know, as fans. I've been doing this for years, almost 20 by now. You turn the page when Harbaugh and the players start speaking at the presser for the next game. Okay, so obviously it feels longer because we had a Thursday night game. Okay, but like usually there's a Sunday night game. Harbaugh speaks Monday, and he's taking questions from the game before because he's finally seen the tape. Tuesday, there's no player or coach availability. Then Wednesday, there is player and coach availability, and that's when you officially can turn the page forward. This is the same thing that people wanted us to stop talking about the AFC Championship game. Not going to do that. You want to turn the page because it was an ugly loss. I don't care. We're still going to cover it, and we're still going to nitpick it Now, officially, though, they speak today at 3:15. And based off of that, we can finally fully turn the page forward. So just so you know, that's usually how the media goes week to week in the NFL.
And the page is being turned to this. Raiders and Ravens, 1 o'clock on Sunday. If you're going out to the bank, looks like they're going to have a car flag as the giveaway item. So make sure you get there early. I'm not sure how many there are going to be. Maybe everybody gets one, but looking forward to this. Be More Around Town pregame show. You know where I'll be pregame, right outside the bank, about 10-minute walk, 801 West Austin Street. Looking forward to that. And, of course, Sarah and I will be back in usual form for postgame, which for 1 o'clock games is typically somewhere in that 4 o'clock hour. So let's see. What else do we have here? Jonas Schaefer put together. You added this in. Or did I add this in?
I think I did.
Yeah.
Maybe we both saw it, but we just talked about, with that pass rush that the Chiefs are getting on the Ravens. We saw a lot of shallow passes to beat it. A lot of those screens out to Zay or to Justice Hill. So he says probably not too surprising, but Lamar Jackson's 14 passes thrown behind the line of scrimmage in week 1 were a career high. So 14 passes of his were behind 14 of the 26.
Yeah.
So more than double, around half were behind the line of scrimmage.
Yeah. And birthday boys, it's a co-birthday day. Zay Flowers, current Raven, and past Raven and Hall of Famer Ed Reed both have birthdays today. So happy birthday to both these guys. One guy that's just getting his career going, and it is blossoming for sure in Zay, and somebody who needs no introduction in Ed. Happy birthday to those guys. And I wanted to finish here. I thought this was kind of comical. And I also clicked into the site to give you guys a good understanding of, some people don't click into links. We're all guilty of it. And then sometimes you take the headline or whatever people are talking about without fully knowing the story, and you don't get all the context. So Jay Morrison, friend of the show, we've had him on for his Bengals perspective before. He tweeted out something I would think, that the team asked all beat reporters to share, and that is they're trying something new. They're going to hold a watch party at their stadium on Sunday, which it's a road game in Kansas City. And so tickets are $99, and that includes a $25 voucher, basically, that's in that $99 that goes towards discounted concessions. Now, people are losing it at this tweet because of how expensive they feel the $99 is to just enter a stadium. And they feel like the $99 you should get everything in terms of concessions or whatever. But when you go actually into the piece itself and read what is offered, let's take a look. On top of watching the 2021 AFC Championship rematch, fans will also receive field access to walk on the very grounds that Bengals legends walked. Speaking of Bengals legends, some surprise guests will appear for photo opportunities and autographs. There's going to be special in-game entertainment, yada, yada, yada. And then how about this? Everyone in attendance is going to receive a $25 Pro Shop gift card and the opportunity to create a custom Sports Illustrated cover with a personalized photo from the Bengals thrown in the field. The only reason why I'm reading this is because it's gaining a ton of traction about people thinking that Cincy isn't offering their fans anything because they haven't clicked into the link, when really that's actually not a bad deal to walk on the field. Not too bad.
You're asking the wrong person. I'm the person that could have had press box seats my entire Ravens career, 13 years, and I preferred to watch at home. And I still prefer to watch at home. And maybe that's because we're working. We're working, and I get more done. I don't have to worry about traffic and this and that. But that, even after you read the whole thing, doesn't appeal to me one iota. Not a single bit. No, thank you. Go and have traffic and be in a stadium when I could be watching it in my own home with my own friends and family and my own food and not pay anything. No, I'm good.
We're not their target audience, but I would love to know from the live chat. Does that entice any of you? Does that entice you guys? Is it $99 with a $25 gift card, $25 of the $99 that you're going to spend goes towards discounted concessions? You get to walk on the field. You get to watch the game up in the Jumbotrons. There's going to be former legends around there of your team. I don't know. Again, we're not the target audience.
I've seen a lot of people saying that they agree. I'm with you, Sarah. Ditto, Sarah. Yeah, agree 1,000%. Hey, do I seem tired today? I don't feel like I feel like I'm good.
I'm exhausted, just so everybody knows.
Yeah.
I'm exhausted.
Bobby's putting it out there. No, you know what? I'm trying. You guys let me know. Sometimes I feel like I yell too much. So the last couple of days, I've had a concerted effort to keep my volume. Hey, this time I think we know what volume means. I'm trying to keep my voice volume down a little bit. So I'm not tired though. Not tired.
I do sometimes see comments of people mentioning that. I'm like, guys, I'm not the one controlling her volume. Like, it's just that's her passion. That's the way she talks. You know?
I'm like, I don't know how to like, yeah, that's how I talk.
Don't change.
Well, listen. Me and my oldest daughter, we got to close that. We got 3 minutes. We have any more quick hits? We're good, right?
We got one super chat. Yep.
Oh, one super chat real quick. I'm telling you, I wake up at 6 a.m. and I'm the one to get my kids moving. And I'm like, I will not do it here, but I sing like a little morning song, get the mood going. And I'm telling you, 6 hits, I do not hit snooze. I'm like, I'm up. And my oldest daughter, I always say to her, I'm like, you go out and have the best day ever. We're gonna have the best day ever. See, here comes my volume. This is at like early in the morning. We're gonna have the best day ever. And she's like, well, Mom, if today's you say that every day. If today's the best day ever, like how is tomorrow gonna be the best day ever? And I'm like, it's a mentality. It's a mentality. I don't care if you're going to Disney World one day or you're going to school one day. Like today, you're gonna decide you're gonna have the best day ever. And she like loves it. And so like even if I forget, I'll be like, have a good day. She's leaving, and I give her a kiss, and she's like, you mean the best day ever? And I'm like, you got it. So. Listen, it's how I talk, but sometimes I know it can even be a little too loud. So I've been trying to be like more even keel, but I guess it's coming across as tired. So I don't know. I'm just playing with it a little bit. I'm playing with it.
The energy's unmatched. Even your kids know it. They can't go without it now.
Yeah.
Know?
Yeah.
But it is funny. I've told you this before. There are times where I got my AirPods in and you and I do our pre-show call on a daily basis, and maybe I'm a little tired or maybe I got a slight headache, right? And all of a sudden, you hit me with that good morning.
Yeah.
And I'm like lunging for my phone to turn it down a couple notches. Maybe that's just my ear sensitivity. But yeah, look, nobody wants to put the brakes on you. Come on.
Yeah.
We don't want
right.
that.
Jeremiah saying, I fear fired up Sarah. All right. Well, listen, I'm going to have to bring it the next 2 days because I'm solo, and I can't be even kill when you're solo because you got to have dynamics. So
yeah,
I'll bring it more the next 2 days. All right.
I don't think anybody wants you to be even keel.
All right.
Okay. So Rave Kingdom, thanks for the $5 super chat donation. Respectfully, Bobby and Sarah, if you go by the stats and grading, Stephen Curry would be the best defender in the NBA by eye test and film it.
It is Falele and right tackle.
And right tackle.
If you go by stats and grading, Steph Curry would be the best defender.
Absolutely no idea.
By the eye test and film, I don't understand.
I don't get it. But I love the love from you, Rave. Thank you for the $5 donation. I have absolute, and maybe this is like a exhaustion thing. I have no clue what he's saying. I have absolutely zero clue.
Let's give him a chance. Rave Kingdom, are you there?
Steph Curry would be a best defender in the NBA if you go by stats and grading, by eye test, and film it. Or by the eye test.
Okay. Let me see if I got this. So he's saying by stats and the grades we have out there, it would look like Steph Curry is like the best defender ever. Okay, so he's saying okay, I tried.
To the eye test.
But by the eye test and film.
Falele
and right tackle. I tried. And then I lost myself trying.
We appreciate you, Rave.
Oh, he said I was going down the right road. He said, yes, Sarah. So there's Rave Kingdom. So are you saying, because when I looked at film, when we came out of the game, like Falele was terrible. And then once we looked at film and more grading, it was really the right tackle. Is that what you're saying?
Taurus says, Rave, please proofread, bro. You just bribed my brain.
Listen, but for the $5 super chat, we really tried. We tried.
Thank you, Rave.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
I'm saying by grade, it's only right tackle's fault, but it's right guard and right tackle.
Evan seems like he's got a good pulse on it. Evan says he's saying just because the stats say Fa'alele's PFF grade was good, the eye test says otherwise.
Ah. But I feel like it was flip. I felt like I came out of the game feeling like Fa'alele had a terrible game, and then looking at the film, it was more the right tackle and less Fa'alele.
Man.
He said, I only get $5 amount worth of words. Okay.
Funny, Rave. It's a funny way to end the show.
Hey, we appreciate you, Rave. We appreciate you.
Absolutely. And we also appreciate our patrons who deserve a shout out from us right now, because that's what they pay for and that's what they invest in. And they support us through Patreon, and we really appreciate them. So Nishad and Kelly, thank you both for believing in what we're building. If you guys are interested in doing the same, you can visit patreon.com/RavensVault podcast to learn more about what we're offering. It is a great time of year to mark the beginning of football season, to sign up for as little as $1.99. And it certainly goes a long way when you do what we do on a daily basis. So thanks to all of you for chiming in. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the channel, like this video if you enjoyed the content, and hit that notification bell so you can be notified of when we're dropping our live content. I will be next back with everybody and Sarah on Sunday for post-game with Sarah, pre-game solo, and looking forward to week 2 of this season, 1 o'clock kickoff. Thank you, partner, for the next couple of days, and hopefully you guys enjoy. There's going to be press conferences coming up later today, so Sarah's going to have plenty of content to get to in under 23 hours from right now when she solo hosts our Thursday Ravens lunch hour live stream. So for Sarah, I'm Bobby, signing off from this one. Thanks to SNR Laundry Services for sponsoring this episode, and we'll catch up with you guys